Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So this is going to be a Justice League movie video. Geoff Johns just explained some things, already doing his job way better than we ever hoped he would. Just making everybody feel better about what's going on with the DC movie universe. So this is actually really exciting. It is so funny how Geoff Johns has turned into the Chuck Norris of the DC universe. They're going to be like Geoff Johns facts after this. So Geoff Johns, in typical fashion, flying in with the white light of creation, fixing your weekend plans as he clears up what's going on with Justice League. No one really understood what the Justice League movie's title was going to be, so there were a bunch of different possibilities. Geoff Johns just flew in and was like, no, it's not going to be called any of those, it's just going to be called Justice League. So late last night, you heard this collective sigh of relief because all the titles that people were wondering about were complete nightmare fuel, each worse than the last. So first fake title, Justice League United. Doesn't sound too bad, okay, sounds like the team's coming together. Next big title, Angels and Demons. Okay, starting to get a little religious here. Sounds like that Dan Brown, Tom Hanks sequel movie that was pretty terrible. So getting a little worried here, starting to get a little worried. Next title, Gods Among Us. Okay, sounds familiar. There was the video game, they did the spin-off comic book. Problem is, most people have probably forgotten how dystopian this take on the characters was. It was like a vast departure from the normal comic books in that it was so much grittier and darker. So what was the big criticism against Batman v Superman? That it lacked hope. This title implies that they would push even deeper into that, so you're just like, oh my god. Then kind of taking that religious idea and the Gods Among Us idea, combining them, Gods Among Men. So sounds pretty serious. So you can see how just going with the title Justice League, as Geoff Johns says, is just way better. It's way simpler because I feel like Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is the longest title that you could possibly come up with for a movie. Like most of the coverage of the movie just dropped the Dawn of Justice. Like we don't need to subtitle it, just call it Batman v Superman or Batman vs Superman. But there are a whole bunch of other reasons why the title just completely didn't work for the movie. Because Batman isn't necessarily fighting Superman, even though that's the way they sold the movie. But they're just sidestepping all those problems because Geoff Johns wrote in, just like, everybody feel better about this. We're going to call it Justice League. It's going to feel like a Justice League movie should. So they're shooting that right now. And just to catch everybody up on what's going on when Justice League picks up, so we'll say spoilers for the end of Batman v Superman in case you haven't seen that. But what happens is Superman is presumed dead, even though we all know he's coming back. But Batman, the reason they said they did that at the end of the movie is because they wanted Batman to have to assemble the Justice League with the help of Wonder Woman. So Batman's going to be going around to all the different Justice League members, trying to convince them to join the fight because of this unnamed threat that they sense is coming. Thanks to some extra footage they released after the movie, this like kind of Justice League teaser here with Darkseid, Mother Boxes, we know that Lex Luthor also has an idea for what's coming, but until we see some production art, we really don't know how they're going to portray the forces of Apocalypse. And on the flip side of that, we don't really know if they're going to be doing a lot of the New Gods, because the way they're pitching it right now, it sounds like the Justice League forms to fight off Darkseid and the forces of Apocalypse, even though the New Gods usually help them out at some point when there are comic book stories where this happens. But it's supposed to be 2 movies, Justice League Part 1, Justice League Part 2, I'm assuming they're going to change the title for Part 2 if they're just going to call the first Justice League movie Justice League, so there probably will be a subtitle for the second one. But the first one, I'm just expecting them to assemble the Justice League. We'll actually see what's going on with Darkseid and Apocalypse, whoever the tip of that spear is going to be. By the time we get to the second movie, that'll be like full-on war between the Justice League and Darkseid. So if you want to read a big Justice League Darkseid story, surprise, surprise, Geoff Johns just wrote a really awesome story called Darkseid War, which is basically like the Anti-Monitor versus Darkseid. Craziest, best idea for a comic book matchup ever. 2 of the most powerful people in the DC universe just slugging it out, just beating the shit out of each other. So that was all before DC Rebirth. So that story isn't connected to what's going on in DC Rebirth. It kind of exists in the world before the big Rebirth event. But if you haven't yet, be sure to read DC Rebirth. They do a whole bunch of really awesome things. The Flash is at the center of it in a really awesome way. And I will be doing a new Flash video later today. I'll be talking about some of the differences between the Flash movie, which is actually going to be a team-up movie compared to the Flash TV show. So be sure to subscribe to get that. I'll name the giveaway winner whenever I post that. And if you didn't know, surprise, surprise, Weekend just got a little bit better. There is a DC giveaway going on now. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. It's just a $20 Amazon gift card. And if you're still confused about what's going on now that Geoff Johns is kind of like the Kevin Feige of DC, that's not a totally accurate term, but that's just the easiest terms that I could put it in, is he's kind of course correcting the movies. So he's the guy that rides in and explains characters to people so they don't misuse them. So you don't see Batman or Superman doing things or acting ways that they would not act. So while you guys wait for that Flash video to post, you can click here to learn about what's going on with Marvel's Phase 3. I just do like a complete big timeline. And you can click here to learn all about what's going on with the Flash Season 3 in the Flashpoint storyline. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.